Hello everyone and welcome to Metagame Mastery, where it's not just about what the card does, but how it impacts the game. Guilds of Ravnica pre-release is this weekend, and we're taking a look at the limited archetypes, including Golgari Rot. If you enjoy this content, click that subscribe button so you get access to all our latest videos, and if you're looking to pre-order a booster box of Guilds of Ravnica, check out our Amazon affiliate link in the description below. Without further ado, big time, go time, let's go. First, we're going to take a look at the commons, because that's what you're going to see the most of. Now, the Golgari specific mechanic in this set is Undergrowth, which produces a variable effect based off of the number of creatures in your graveyard. For example, Rhizome Lurcher is 4 CMC, 2 colorless, a black and a green for a 2/2 fungus zombie with Undergrowth. And he enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the number of creatures in your graveyard. So the idea with this deck is we're going to run more creatures than normal. We're going to be okay with them dying because we want to populate our graveyard to get massive effects off of our Undergrowth cards. This guy's pretty good at the 4-drop once you get that engine going as well. Vigor Spore Worm is 6 CMC, 5 colorless, and a green for a 6/4 worm with Undergrowth. It enters the battlefield, target creature gains vigilance and +X/+X, which is the number of creature cards in your graveyard, and it cannot be blocked by more than one creature. This is pretty good for 6 mana. It helps you push the damage, and you get a 6/4 body at a reasonable cost. Crawl Foragers is 5 CMC, 4 colorless, and a green for a 4/4 insect scout with Undergrowth. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life for each creature card in your graveyard. I actually like this more in the Selesnya build than here, but it's fine curve filler at the 5-drop spot. Moodmark Painter is 4 CMC, 2 colorless, black for a 2/3 human shaman with Undergrowth. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn. And Menace, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. This one I'm actually not really high on. You want to play this late game once you've managed to populate your graveyard, and it's kind of a one-trick pony. Erstwhile Trooper is 3 CMC, 1 colorless, black, and a green for a 2/2 zombie soldier. You can discard a creature card, and he gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Activate this ability only once each turn. So I like this as another way for you to populate your graveyard, and he can attack in as a 4/4 trample on turn 4, which isn't half bad. Spinal Centipede is 3 CMC, 2 colorless, and a black for a 3/2 insect. When he dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So normally I don't like 3/2s for 3 unlimited. They have the power to trade down. The reason why I'm better than okay with this one is he has some staying power, putting a +1/+1 counter on another creature on the board, but at the same time, that with his fragility, he can populate your graveyard, which fuels your Undergrowth. So in that regard, I think he's going to fit in just fine in this specific build. Burglar Rat is 2 CMC, 1 colorless and a black for a 1/1 rat. When he enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. So nothing special here. This isn't great economy for getting a 1/1. Even making your opponent choose and discard a card for 2 mana isn't great. But the fact that he's fragile actually works really well in this deck, allowing you to get the immediate impact off his ETB effect, and then he populates your graveyard from that point forward. Hired Poisoner is 1 black mana for a 1/1 human assassin with Death Touch. Great little rattlesnake here. You could put this on the board turn 1. It will almost certainly trade up later on, and in the meantime, when he does die, he populates your graveyard. Pitiless Gorgon is 3 CMC, 1 colorless, and 2 Golgari hybrid for a 2/2 Gorgon with Death Touch. So nothing fancy here. This is a great rattlesnake card. It slows down your opponent, incentivizes them not to attack, and when it does eventually die, it ensures that you at least trade, which is fine. You're getting removal out of it, and on top of that, you're populating your graveyard. Also plays really well with the fight mechanics that we see on other cards. Severed Strands is 2 CMC, 1 colorless, and a black for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sack a creature. You gain life equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. Destroy target creature an opponent controls. So this is kind of a more powerful Bone Splitters, or Splinters, I should say. Overall, this is going to be good removal in this deck because you're okay with sacrificing your creature and nixing an opponent off the board because you're going to get value off that creature being there as the game progresses. Prey Upon is being reprinted. Of course, it's 1 green mana for a sorcery. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. Why I like it in this strategy is even if you trade and both your creatures die, you're populating your graveyard, you're getting value out of the exchange. Undercity Uprising is 4 CMC, 2 colorless, black and a green for a sorcery. Creatures you control gain Death Touch until end of turn. Then target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. I love this card. It is so powerful, allowing you to force through damage and act as a removal spell. Very, very good in this color combination. And at common, Siege Worm is a Selesnya card, but because you're going to be running so many creatures, it's entirely viable for you to drop this on turn 4. He's 7 mana, 5 colorless, green for a 5/5 worm with Convoke and Trample, allowing you to get this guy in play and really push the tempo. Pax Favor is also designed for Selesnya, but makes a great combat trick as it's only 3 CMC, 2 colorless, and a green for an instant with Convoke. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn, allowing you to threaten your opponent with a combat trick when you're tapped out. Deadly Visit is 5 CMC, 3 colorless, black for a sorcery, destroy target creature, surveil 2. So the Dimir mechanic of surveil plays really well in this build because it allows you to populate your graveyard directly from your library and also gets you some virtual card advantage in the process. Mephitic Vapors is 3 CMC, 2 colorless, and a black for a sorcery. All creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn. Surveil 2. This is really powerful as a way for you to, against the right deck, you can get rid of your opponent's low toughness creatures. There are a lot of 1 toughness creatures in this format. And at the same time, you might populate your own graveyard, and then you get the virtual card advantage of Surveil 2. Barrier of Bones is 1 black mana for a 0/3 skeleton wall with Defender. When it enters the battlefield, surveil 1. It's fine filler. It's going to populate your graveyard with the surveil, and then when it eventually dies, it'll populate your graveyard as well. Whisper Agent is 3 CMC, 1 colorless, and 2 hybrid Dimir, which can be cast as 2 black and a colorless. For a 3/2 human rogue with flash, when he enters the battlefield, surveil 1. I actually like this card better here than I do in the Dimir build because he's so fragile. Being a 3/2, he's almost certainly going to trade down. You can use him as a surprise combat trick, some pseudo removal on turn 3. He populates your graveyard, getting you additional value, and the surveil gives you virtual card advantage, as well as possibly populating your graveyard. Now for the uncommons. Molder Hulk is 9 CMC, 7 colorless, a black and a green for a 6/6 fungus zombie with Undergrowth. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. When he enters the battlefield, return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. This guy's great. If you can get 3 creatures in your graveyard just from playing Magic, you play them on curve, you ramp up so that you can play maybe another big beast on your next turn. But if you've managed to populate your graveyard with Surveil, with discarding cards, with just regular playing Magic, it's not hard to imagine getting this guy out on turn uh, 5, maybe even turn 4. And at that point, he's a monster, ramping you up to make another big play on your next turn, as well as just being a 6/6 body value. Glowspore Shaman is a black and a green for a 3/1 Elf Shaman. When she enters the battlefield, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. You may put a land card from your graveyard on top of your library. So I love this card. It's a way for you to get 3 power on the board that they almost have to answer on turn 2, as well as populating your graveyard early. And then on top of all that, it's got 1 toughness. The fact that it's fragile works in this deck because when it dies, it fuels your undergrowth. Overall, great card design. Golgari Findbroker is 4 CMC, black, black, green, green for a 3/4 Elf Shaman. When it enters the battlefield, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Your goal is to play a lot of creature cards, and you want to populate your graveyard with a lot of creature cards. This is a way for you to get a sizable body, decent 3/4 for 4, and replace itself on turn 4. It's fair value. It's better than fair value. It's just darn good. Golgari Raiders is 4 CMC, 3 colorless, and a green for a 0/0 Elf Warrior with haste and undergrowth. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature card in your graveyard. So this really requires that you've already got a lot of creature cards in your graveyard for it to be good. That's really difficult to make happen. It's very situational, I should say, and I don't like situational in these builds. And even if you do get it out, it can just be chump blocked. It doesn't have trample on its own, and for that reason, I think that I would pass on this one. Crawl Harpooner is 2 CMC, 1 colorless and a green for a 3/2 Insect Warrior with Reach. When he enters the battlefield, choose up to 1 target creature card with flying you don't control. He gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Then you may have him fight that creature. Okay, so this is a really good card. Just the fact that you're getting 3/2 with a keyword for 2 mana is solid. And then there's the outside chance that he could act as a removal spell as well. That's just gravy. Like, this is a really great bear. Lotleth Giant is 7 CMC, 6 colorless and a black for a 6/5 zombie giant with undergrowth. When he enters the battlefield, he deals 1 damage to target opponent for each creature card in your graveyard. Great way to close out the game with a big body that has an immediate impact on your opponent's life total. Necrotic Wound is 1 black for an instant. Target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. Yeah, this card's really good. This card's really good removal in this build, and it's really good in Constructed. So you'll definitely want to snatch this one up early. Atron Assassin is 3 CMC, 1 colorless, black, and a green for a 1/1 Elf Assassin with Death Touch. All creatures able to block Atron Assassin do so. So I really like this one when paired with combat tricks, and we're going to look at a few of those in a moment here. The bigger this thing gets, the more obnoxious it's going to be, wiping out potentially your opponent's entire board. In the meantime, it still has that lure effect where you can get the 1-for-1 exchange, it dies, populates your graveyard, and you can sneak through a bunch of damage with your other creatures. Overall, good card. Swarm Guildmage is 2 CMC, a black and a green for a 2/2 Elf Shaman. You can pay 4 colorless and a black, tap it. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain menace until end of turn. You can also pay colorless and a green, tap it to gain 2 life. So yeah, this is a decent bear. He gets you some incidental life gain if you are looking to dump some mana early game, and then late game he can help you push through damage for the win. Status and statue. Status is one Golgari hybrid for an instant. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains death touch until end of turn. That's a solid combat trick. Turns even your 0/3 wall into a deadly threat to your opponents. Whereas statue is 4 CMC, 2 colorless, black and a green for an instant. Destroy target artifact, creature, or enchantment. That's a lot of things you can remove at instant speed. This is a good card for limited. Might of the Masses is 1 green mana for an instant. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature card you control. For each creature you control, including tokens. You're not running a lot of tokens in this build, but this has the potential to get nuts because you are running such a high concentration of creatures to fuel your undergrowth. This is going to be the most obnoxious combat trick you could possibly run in the deck. So it's really good here. It's also really good in Selesnya. It's really good with Atron Assassin as well. Plague Crafter is 3 CMC, 2 colorless, and a black for a 3/2 human shaman. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacks a creature or planeswalker. Each player who can't discards card. I love this card because it works really well, even in a vacuum. Obviously, if you can sack a 1/1 or some tiny creature to keep a 3/2, that's fine. But even late game and you have bigger creatures, you can sack itself. Meanwhile, you're putting your opponent in the position of having to edict a creature, a planeswalker, or lose a card. And in doing so, you're also fueling your own undergrowth, getting more value for your deck. Solid card. Pilfering Imp is 1 black mana for a 1/1 imp with flying. You can pay 1 colorless and a black, tap him and sack him. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. Activate this ability only anytime you would cast a sorcery. So I like this guy because, yes, he's a 1/1 evasive body for 1. He'll probably act like a lava axe a lot of the time. But if you want to get rid of an opponent's card, if you want to disrupt their game plan, if they only have 1 card left, whatever the case may be, or if you just want to gather information, see what's in their hand, then this guy will allow you to do that, and he gets value for you throughout the rest of the game by populating your graveyard and upping your undergrowth count. Price of Fame is 4 CMC, 3 colorless and black for an instant. This spell costs 2 colorless less to cast if it targets a legendary creature, destroy target creature, and surveil 2. So having unconditional instant speed removal is good. And the fact that it costs a super value price if you're targeting one of the guild leaders is even better. And then on top of that, you can use Surveil to populate your graveyard directly from your library. This is a lot of value on 1 card. Really good pickup. District Guide is 3 CMC, 2 colorless, and a green for a 2/2 Elf Scout. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card or a gate card. Reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So I mentioned in the previous video that this is a format where you're going to get a gate card in every pack, and there will be a locket at common for each color combination. So there's going to be a lot of mana fixing. And that's not even counting the shock lands that are available. This is one of the ways that you can help smooth out your mana curve, splash a 3rd color, maybe even a 4th, and on top of that, even though you're just getting a 2/2 for 3, when this thing does eventually die, it will just fuel your undergrowth for later in the game. I like it better in this build than any other. Affectionate Indrik is 6 CMC, 5 colorless, and a green for a 4/4 beast. When it enters the battlefield, you may have it fight target creature you don't control. So yeah, this thing's just fine. It's a little bit expensive, but getting a removal spell on a moderately big body, there's nothing wrong with that. Undercity Necrolisk is 4 CMC, 3 colorless, and a black for a 3/3 zombie lizard. You can pay 1 colorless, sack another creature, put a +1/+1 counter on Undercity Necrolisk. It gains menace until end of turn. Activate this ability only any other time you could cast a sorcery. I actually like this guy better in the Selesnya build. I list him here because obviously he'll fuel your undergrowth in this strategy, but overall, I like the way he interacts with tokens, allowing you to permanently grow him and get menace. Wand of Vertebrae is 1 colorless mana for an artifact. Put the top card of your library into your graveyard. You can pay 2 colorless mana, tap it, and exile it to shuffle up to 5 target cards from your graveyard into your library. So this is a great way for you to fuel your undergrowth and potentially keep from decking yourself in the process. Whispering Snitch is 2 CMC, 1 colorless, and a black for a 1/3 vampire rogue. Whenever you surveil for the first time each turn, it deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. So this is a fine bear for the deck because you're probably going to be doing a lot of surveil. Surveil works really well in this strategy, and this can get you some incidental value in the process. Definitely not a first pick, probably not the first 3 or 4 picks, but it's fine curve filler nonetheless. And now for the rares, where we're going to see a lot more bombs for this strategy. Assassin's Trophy, the big one that everyone's been talking about, is 2 CMC, black and a green for an instant, destroy target permanent or opponent controls. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle their library. Good card. Every time you see it, first pick it. Moving on. Izani, Thousand Eyed, is 6 CMC, 2 colorless, 2 black, 2 green for a 2/3 legendary elf shaman with undergrowth. When she enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token for each creature in your graveyard. You could pay a black and a green, sacrifice another creature, gain 1 life, and draw a card. So this is going to allow you to go very wide and push through a lot of damage late game, assuming you've got your engine going. But if not, this is a dud card. So you definitely want to make sure that you're ahead when you play this card. She'll help you close out the game and draw into gas until you eventually destroy your opponent. Charnel Troll is Psychotog 2.0. Moving on, this card's really good. It's 3 CMC, a colorless, a black, and a green for a 4/4 troll with trample. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on him. Otherwise, sack him. You can pay a black and a green to discard a creature card, put a +1/+1 counter on him. So, more often than not, on turn 6, you're going to be attacking in with a 6/6 Trampler. That's really good. This thing is amazing in this build. Absolute first pick every time you see him. Find and Finality. Find is 2 hybrid Golgari for sorcery. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand, which is fine. It's a way for you to replenish your hand late game and get back some creature cards that you've been using for undergrowth because you didn't have the mana for them before, but now are suddenly viable. Whereas Finality is 6 CMC, 4 colorless, a black and a green for a sorcery. You may put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature you control. Then all creatures get -4/-4 until end of turn. Boom! One-sided board wipe. Incredibly powerful in this format. Hatchery Spider is 7 CMC, 5 colorless, green for a 5/7 spider with reach and undergrowth. When you cast this spell, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. You may put a green permanent card with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This thing's an absolute bomb in limited. Assuming you have something at least mid-sized to pair it with, you're going to get a ton of board presence off this. This is a really good card for you to run in your deck. Mausoleum Secrets is 2 CMC, 1 colorless, and a black for an instant with Undergrowth. Search your library for a black card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Reveal it and put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. So this is a great way for you to just find the right card. Even if you don't have necessarily a black card that's your bomb, being able to dig out removal can be very powerful. And for only 2 mana, you can cast that spell on the same turn most of the time. Very powerful. Midnight Reaper is 3 CMC, 2 colorless, and a black for a 3/2 zombie knight. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, it deals 1 damage to you and you draw a card. So this thing's great. I mean, you're getting a 3/2 for 3. I don't typically like that, but it replaces itself if and when it dies. And in the meantime, you get card advantage over the course of the game, making this a really amazing card in limited. All the while you're fueling your graveyard with Undergrowth. Pelt Collector is 1 green mana for a 1/1 elf warrior. Whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield or dies, if that creature's power is greater than Pelt Collector's, put a +1/+1 counter on him. As long as he has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on him, he gains trample. So this thing's going to be an absolute beast for you. Not only getting a +1/+1 counter when the creature comes into play, but getting them when they die, which you're going to be pushing a pseudo-aristocrat strategy with this deck, getting double value off of each card. Gruesome Menagerie is 5 CMC, 3 colorless, black for sorcery. Choose a creature card with converted mana cost 1. Choose another creature card with converted mana cost 2. Choose another creature card with converted mana cost 3 in your graveyard. Return those cards to the battlefield. So this is great. You're going to be populating your graveyard with creatures anyways, probably through Surveil or one of the other Golgari cards. This allows you to recoup and suddenly spike your board presence. Awesome card, great bomb for this strategy. Beast Whisperer is 4 CMC, 3 colorless, green for a 2/3 Elf Druid. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Because you're going to be pushing a creature-heavy narrative, and you're not looking necessarily to create tokens, you're just looking to have creature cards in your deck. This is going to work very well to allow you to draw many cards, get the gas you need, drop the bombs, and win your game. Bounty of Might is 6 CMC, 4 colorless, green for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn 3 times. So this card is typically associated with Selesnya because it's a go wide strategy and it allows you to both go tall and go wide. This also works really well in Golgari because you're playing such a critical mass of creature cards that you will inevitably have the ability to go wide. It also plays very well with your Death Touch creatures, especially the one that has lore. Ritual of Soot is 4 CMC, 2 colorless, black for a sorcery. Destroy all creature cards with converted mana cost 3 or less. This is a good card, allowing you to populate graveyards and control the board. Blood Operative is 3 CMC, 1 colorless, black for a 3/1 vampire assassin with lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile target card from a graveyard. Whenever you surveil, if Blood Operative is in your graveyard, you may pay 3 life. If you do, return Blood Operative to your hand. So this is a card that doesn't necessarily play with the Undergrowth mechanic, but it's a 3/1 for 3 with upside that will populate your graveyard, and later on when you get Surveil off of one of your other cards, which you invariably will, it allows you to gain card advantage. Overall, it's a good card for the deck. And the Mythics. Vraska, Golgari Queen is 4 CMC, 2 colorless, black and a green for a legendary planeswalker with a starting loyalty of 4. Her +2 ability is you can sacrifice another permanent. If you do, gain 1 life and draw a card. Her -3 ability is destroy target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less. And her -9 is you get an emblem whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. This is a bomb in limited. The Planeswalkers always are. This synergizes perfectly, allowing you to sacrifice creatures, populate your graveyard, draw a replacement. It gives you control options, and when you go wide, you have the ability to instantly win the game. It's just a solid card. Underrealm Lich is 5 CMC, 3 colorless, black and a green for a 4/3 zombie elf shaman. If you draw a card, instead look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put 1 in your hand and the rest in your graveyard. You can pay 4 life, and it gains indestructible until end of turn, and you tap it. So this is just going to turn your Undergrowth into overdrive. It's just going to kick everything into high gear, and your deck is going to go like mad. You're not going to see these very often, but when you do, Windmill Slam. Doom Whisperer is 5 CMC, 3 colorless, black for a 6/6 Nightmare Demon with flying trample, and you can pay 2 life anytime you want to surveil 2. This is going to allow you to just dump your whole library into your graveyard whenever you need to get maximum value off of your Undergrowth. And getting a 6/6 flying trample is always a bomb in limited, especially for 5 mana. It's redonk. Nullhide Ferox is 4 CMC, 2 colorless, green for a 6/6 beast with hexproof. You can't cast non-creature spells. Anyone can pay 2 colorless mana, and it loses all abilities until end of turn. If a spell or ability an opponent control causes you to discard Nullhide Ferox, put it into the battlefield instead of putting it into your graveyard. So this one is just straight up value. You're getting a 6/6 for 4 with more often than not going to have hexproof, and they're really going to have to put themselves at a mana disadvantage in order to try and remove it. Really solid card for this deck, and the drawback of not being able to cast non-creature spells isn't going to affect this one very much, just for the fact that in this deck you're going to be playing a critical mass of creature spells. The not so secret tech of this format is that it's going to be very easy for you to splash a 3rd, maybe even a 4th color into your deck in order to get the most value out of your card pool. You've got the Lockets at common, you've got the Gates in every single pack, and you've got the Shocklands at rare. So let's take a look at some of the cards that play well with this color combination. Assure and Assemble. Assure is 2 Hybrid Selesnya. For an instant, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. That creature gains indestructible until end of turn. So this is a fine combat trick. You get +1/+1 on a creature, and you get to save it for 2 green mana. But if you are able to splash white, you gain Assemble, which is 6 CMC, 4 colorless, green and white for an instant. Create 3 2/2 green and white Elf Knight creature tokens with Vigilance. Just allowing you to get 6 power and toughness with the relevant keyboard spread across 3 bodies onto the board. Connive and Concoct. Connive is 4 CMC, 2 colorless, and 2 hybrid Dimir for sorcery. You gain control of target creature with power 2 or less. So you can pay 2 black and 2 colorless to cast this card and steal maybe an opponent's Tristani or an opponent's Aurelia or any number of creatures that haven't been mentored up yet. Not only removing that threat from their side of the board, but adding it to your own for a big swing. But then if you're able to splash blue, you get access to Concoct, which is 5 CMC, 3 colorless, a blue and a black for a sorcery. Surveil 3, then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is going to be really powerful in an Undergrowth build, allowing you to populate your graveyard and then getting your pick of the litter to cheat into play. Very powerful effect. Discovery and Dispersal. Discovery is 2 CMC, 1 colorless, and a hybrid Dimir for a sorcery. Surveil 2, then draw a card. Just a great way for you to populate your graveyard early on for just 1 black mana and 1 of anything. And then Dispersal, if you have access to blue, you can pay 5 CMC, 3 colorless, blue and a black for an instant. Each opponent returns a non-land permanent they control with the highest converted mana cost among the permanents they control to its owner's hand, then discards a card, getting you some additional removal in your deck as well. Well, that's it for today. If you enjoy this content, click that subscribe button so you get access to all our latest videos. And if you're looking to pre-order your Guilds of Ravnica booster box, check out our Amazon affiliate link in the description below. This has been Metagame Mastery. Peace!